The travelling conditions are often inhumane. The migrants are overcrowded in trucks or boats and fatal accidents occur frequently. If anyone is interested, I have a book chapter on a number of immigrants that were being smuggled into the UK, and they actually died in the back of a truck. Because as they went across the border, I think from France to the UK, the air vents of the truck were closed so that the immigrants inside couldn't be heard outside as customs and immigration checked the cargo. So as the vents were closed, obviously this restricted the oxygen inside, and the majority of the individuals inside the truck actually died, and there were only, I think, 2 survivors from that, and they were very lucky to survive at all. So there was a high death rate in that incident, and when the Immigration and Customs noticed that the vents were closed, they investigated and found the deceased individuals and 2 remaining survivors in the back of the truck being smuggled. So I can send you that if you are interested. After arrival in the destination country, their illegal status puts them at the mercy of their smugglers, who often force migrants to work for years in the illegal labour market to pay off the debts incurred as a result of their transportation. Some of these debts are huge. These people are coming from often underprivileged backgrounds, poor countries, so the amounts they're paying to be smuggled are astronomical to them. This is why they can be kept in debt for years, and obviously they're trying to send money home to support their families. They're looking for a better life, so if they haven't brought their family with them, they're actually trying to financially support them by sending some of the funds that they're earning home, and often the people smugglers are preventing that from happening. So the person hasn't really benefited. In essence, they're living in awful living conditions with no funds, and they're basically trapped and imprisoned. People smuggling syndicates are drawn by huge profits that can be made, and they benefit from weak legislation surrounding this issue. They benefit relatively low risk of detection, prosecution and arrest compared to other activities of transnational organised crime. So as we've seen in other lectures, the lower the risk of detection and the higher the potential for profit, the more organised criminals are going to be interested in particular activities and partaking and developing networks in those activities. Often a change of routes and methods in response to legislative and law enforcement activities, so it's not that you can close a route down. There are many different ways that people can be smuggled from Asia to the UK or Asia to Australia using planes, trains, boats, whatever. So it's not that you can close a route down, because there are many other ways in which somebody can be smuggled, and you just change the routes. Routes used by people smugglers may sometimes be simple and direct. At other times, they're circulatory, so they go in many different methods and many different routes. Time between departure and arrival may vary from days to several months, or even in the most extreme cases, years. People may get stuck in various countries on their travel through and actually end up working there for the smugglers before they're further moved on. They have no control. The smugglers are controlling the illegal documents, they're controlling the travel, they're controlling all of the finances. So the people being smuggled are very much at the smugglers' command. How do we deal with people smuggling? Well, in Australia, the Australia Federal Police and Department of Immigration and Citizenship and the People Smuggling Strike Team was established in 2000. So this is now 13 years ago. So this has been recognised as a growing problem for quite some time. It provides a centrally directed, highly mobile investigative capability against organised people smuggling syndicates operating in Australia and overseas. Now remember, the smuggling syndicates could be established in Australia, but actually be smuggling people from Asia or Africa to the UK or Europe, possibly to Australia. It really depends. Or they could be based in Africa. They could be based anywhere in the world, basically, smuggling people. So we're not really just looking at those operating in Australia. That's too limited. We have to look at this as a transnational organised area of criminal activity. The team consisted of investigators as well as intelligence and financial analysts. The Australia Federal Police are committed to a multi-agency approach to combat people smuggling and it acknowledges the effectiveness of the model. This is certainly something that has to be looked at by a group of people, because no one group, it can't just be policed by the Australia Federal Police. This has to be done on as part of a government strategy across the board, and therefore an international strategy working with other countries that in which people smuggling is a problem. The technological advances, including widespread availability of fraudulent documentation, i.e. identity fraud, which we've already talked about, have prompted the maturing of criminal activities undertaken by people smugglers. There's greater awareness of policing abilities and methods, and there's people smugglers are acting regionally rather than locally in one country, which goes back to the transnational nature of this activity. Therefore, as I said, it's imperative that the capacity building and intelligence sharing opportunities have to be pursued in source and transit countries across the region. Australia is not a country in which transit, so people travelling through, is so much of an issue. This is normally the end country for those being smuggled, but certainly a lot of European countries are transit countries, so they're going even through countries as wealthy as France to get to the UK, for example. The prosecution, disruption and capacity building in this area. Well, since 2008 there's been a surge in maritime people smuggling, and we did talk about this in terms of maritime crime last week. The passengers are predominantly Afghan, Iranian, Iraqi and Sri Lankan. And to combat the spike, the Australian Federal Police has generated a law enforcement programme founded on 3 pillars, which are prosecution, disruption and capacity building. And this is the way that they think it's best chances of actually disrupting the organised networks that are currently smuggling large numbers of people around the world. The prosecution strategy relies on foreign and Australian prosecution of people smugglers, and it does rely on foreign and Australian collaboration, international collaboration. The disruption strategy consists of providing actionable intelligence to inform foreign law enforcement action and prevent maritime ventures before they depart for Australia. It's no good trying to deal with just the smugglers and the smuggled individuals once they land in Australia or once they're at the border of Australia. It has to be dealt with on-site in the countries of origin, of which we've seen the list on the previous slide, normally those areas of the world. The capacity building strategy is focused on enhancing the capacity of the Indonesian National Police, which is where a lot of these individuals originate from that are being smuggled, and other law enforcement agencies across the region, including Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Malaysia. Now, it's not to say that the organised criminals that are doing the smuggling are from these countries. It's these countries from which the smuggled individuals are largely coming from, originating from.